Welcome back, everyone, to Double Take, an NFL podcast streaming everywhere you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I'm your host, David, and I'm joined by my twin brother, Daniel. Daniel, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm glad that you're back. And I'm glad football's back, honestly.
Right.
And so a lot of games, a lot of news to talk about, and so let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. We're obviously going to start first as Cowboys fans, and since we didn't have our show on Monday to talk specifically about the Cowboys, we're going to do it to start off the show. But Dallas Cowboys defeated New York Giants 40-0. It was crazy. It was incredible. 7 sacks by the defense, 3 turnovers, 2 picks, 1 forced fumble, and one of those picks being a pick six. Offense was okay. I'm going to take that back. It was better than okay. It was great. And I'll explain why when we kind of go back and forth. But it was a great game for Dallas. I think it put the league on notice defensively for the Cowboys of, hey, this team, if you didn't think the defense could get any better, it did.
Yeah,
and it was clearly evident, and you could see that. But Daniel, just talk to me about your thoughts coming out of this game.
I think for me, you kind of said the brunt of what I was going to say. The defense, and I think you said it best. If you didn't think the defense could get better, it did. I think Micah is just leading the charge of, hey, it's going to be a long season for anyone who comes to play us. The defense is just fast. They're opportunistic. They're physical. And I think, weather obviously has a lot to do with, how, offenses play. But just the penetration they were able to have on the defensive line, the linebackers flying all over the place. I think what really impressed me the most was Trayvon Diggs. And here's why. Not only is he a shutdown corner now, he's a hard-hitting cornerback. I think he forced 2 fumbles.
I know he forced that pick six.
That pick, or I guess, yeah. To me, I felt like that was a fumble, but whatever. But kind of
that was a pick for sure.
But like 2 tackle efforts, I'll say that 2 tackle efforts cause a turnover. Like he put a lick on the receiver to force a pick six, and then he stripped the ball. They may have not recovered it, but like that's what you want out of your defense. Like, can you disrupt an offense? Can you make it to a way for your team to get extra possessions? Are you actively looking for that? And that's what this defense has been doing. And then like Micah had 1 sack, but 2 other guys had 2 sacks. So you see what it's doing. Like Micah Parsons is creating for other pass rushers.
Right.
And so I think that's a great thing about what you've seen from the defense. Now, based on, the raining conditions, the offense did okay. I'm not going to go great. I think the running game, that facet of the game was great. Most of the guys who carried the ball got over 4 yards a carry, like Tony Pollard, 5 yards a carry. Rico Dowdle, 4 yards a carry. Kevon Turpin, 4.6 yards a carry and a touchdown. Deuce Vaughn came in and 6 yard. The game was already over at that point. I would have loved to just see more of him, honestly, because I think he can provide more than the opportunity is given. But it's early in the season, so I'm not going to gripe about that. Offensively, I think for me the highlight player was Kevon Turpin. We've been giving him crap for the past year and a half about his fumbling issues. And I kind of asked myself the question, why is he here? Why is he just here to return kicks? Like, and I think, David, this speaks loud to, Kellen Moore. Like, seeing Mike McCarthy use Kevon Turpin the way that he did on Sunday night was another indicator of like, man, maybe Kellen Moore wasn't the right guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're talking about the USFL MVP and championship MVP. And you see what the offense can be. Yeah. Even on a rainy night. even on a rainy night. The fact that he was able to just be, he got more touches in one game this year than he did
Mhm.
all of last year on the offense.
Yeah.
That is amazing progress. And so we'll talk more about Dak later. I think I'm gonna let you just go and just talk about what you saw in the game. But I definitely think that that is a talking point. Because I think a segment that we're probably going to get into is just like, hey, there's a lot of quarterbacks that struggled this week.
There was.
There
Yeah.
was. We got to talk about it, and we got to talk about what's the narrative being put out on those other quarterbacks versus Dak. We got to talk about that.
We do. We do. So here, let me just clarify what I mean by I thought the offense played great. It was because of situational football that the offense played, which didn't play that way last year or in the years before under Kellen Moore. What I mean by that is this: you have an offense that is heading into the game and they're up 16-0. You pound the rock, which is what Mike McCarthy wanted to do, and everyone made such a big stink about, um, you know, you're not going to be like a high-powered offense, and you're not going to be the number one offense in the league by running the ball. Like everyone just made such a big deal about that statement. Like, oh, you're not going to be, a top 3 offense like you've been in the past years. Well, you don't have to be anymore. Like, but here's the thing, even in saying that, like everyone wants to say, the Cowboys didn't even average 300 yards of total offense. But we still put up 27 points as an offense, which is right on par with what the Cowboys were averaging last year. But it was less drives for
Yeah.
more points.
Yep.
So when we talk about why I thought the offense looked great, the receivers, tight ends dropped 6 passes from Dak Prescott. Okay. Because Dak was 13 from 24. Okay. But there was a lot of dropped passes. No, not Travis Kelce.
Jake
Ferguson
Ferguson.
dropped a
Yep.
couple. Turpin
Hendershot.
dropped one. Hendershot dropped a touchdown because that was
Mm-hmm.
a perfectly thrown ball by Dak.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having 6 drops, and I'm gonna go ahead and just as I was giving Dak a pass for the rain, I'm also gonna get the receivers a break from the rain. Because you could say the same thing about Joe Burrow in Cleveland. Or were they in Cleveland or were they in Cincinnati? I can't remember where they were.
I
But
think they were in Cleveland. I think they
so
were
if
in
they were in
Cleveland.
Cleveland and it was raining, you have Joe Burrow, who completed 45% of his passes, only 82 yards. It was a downpour rain in Cleveland. So it's hard to throw the football, especially against that defense with that pass rush, and especially the offensive line that Cincinnati has. They just don't want to protect Joe Burrow, and they paid him all this money. I think because it's like, well, I'm sorry that you have this offensive line, like we're not doing our job or whatever.
Yeah.
But in terms of the offense, I think next week is going to be like this. Just to kind of sum up this game, this was a statement game from the defense of saying, we're here. We
Yeah.
don't care who you are. Michael
Correct.
Parsons made a statement of I'm here and I'm rushing the quarterback. And I'm going to be upset if they don't let me, which if you could see on the sidelines, they showed like an image of him. And he's just like, you
Yeah.
could tell he wanted to be in the game, which you love to see that from your best player on your team.
Right. For sure.
But next week, maybe. I think probably the big game for everyone, I think for both sides of the football, is going to be against the 49ers in week 5.
I think so too. I think that
But in terms of a statement game
right.
for our offense, that's going to
Mhm.
come next week because the New York Jets defense is known as one of the best defenses in the league. Now you're going to have a real test about what this offense can do because you're not going to have the excuses of weather. So you have to catch the football.
Yep. Yep.
So next week is going to be interesting for the offense to see truly but what I'll say about Dak, and then we'll move on into kind of our biggest surprises of the week, and even talk about quarterback play. Uh, One of the things that was encouraging for me watching Dak this week, there wasn't a single throw that you thought, Dak, why did you throw that? Like there was not any plays that you looked at. He's just like the ball should have went there, or the ball you shouldn't have thrown that pass. There was no plays like that, and it was because of Mike McCarthy's offense, of him not putting Dak in situations to throw interceptions. One example that I give: it was a 3rd down and 15 after a holding penalty, something like that. 3rd down and 15, you're up by 26. Okay, Kellen Moore would have thrown the ball in that situation and put Dak in a position to try to get the first down. Mike McCarthy said, you know what? We're up by 26. Let's not put the ball in danger. We're deep in our own territory. Let's just run the ball, get as many yards as we can, and then punt the ball. Live to fight another day, because you have trust in your defense. And especially if you're able to pin them back in their own territory, you trust that defense. Even if they bend, they won't break. So it's those kinds of things that Mike McCarthy is doing offensively, to where it's not the most flashiest thing in the world, but it's good football. It's smart football. And smart football is boring football sometimes. So I would rather take a smart football team than an electric football team that has the capability of losing you games. Because when Kellen Moore was the OC, that happened a lot when he was here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that happened a whole lot.
So I think that the Cowboys are in a really good position. Like I said, New York's going to be a real test. I mean, even with the loss of Aaron Rodgers, who tore his ACL against the Buffalo Bills, even though it's Zach Wilson playing at quarterback, you still have to go against that defense, because if you play like Josh Allen, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I think Dak should have looked at that game on Monday night and been like, I gotta be just like I was tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Efficient,
I f-
not forcing the ball, all that.
exactly. He's got to be on one, because those defensive backs, they can cover, and they can
Right.
cover
Yeah.
great distance. Yeah.
So let's go ahead, and we're not going to cover every NFL game this past
Right.
week. We're just going to
Right.
talk about, first, Daniel, I'm going to ask you this question. Which team to you looked the best? Which team shocked you or surprised you? Which team played well that you've taken notice and what they can do?
Uh, this one's kind of like a easy one, but I'm gonna say the 49ers. And I'll say
Mm,
this for this reason. I think there was a lot of talk going into week one, even just in the offseason, of like, was Brock Purdy's rookie season, was that just a fluke?
mm,
Is he the real deal? And I think from the first drive, he showed, no, I'm for real. And this team is for real. His just ability to just his timing of the offense, his command of the offense, the West Coast system has just been amazing to watch. And he
mm-hmm,
picked up right where he left off, and he kind of reestablished those things of like, hey, maybe had he been healthy against Philly, maybe we do get a
mm,
different story. Because that's how
yeah,
great he was doing. And we'll talk about Philly just briefly later on, or unless we're
mhm.
not, and I can just say it now.
Yeah.
Um,
Just go ahead and say it now. Yeah.
their defense was not impressive. Their defense was not impressive, and I think had it not been bad weather there too, maybe the offense plays a little better. I think, the jury's still out on that. Um, but you almost let Mac Jones win the game, and that speaks to a whole testament of like the stupidity of Bill Belichick last year. You see what he
Oh,
can
yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm,
You see
mm-hmm,
what he can do when he actually has an offensive minded coach and not a
mm-hmm,
defensive coordinator pretending to be OC. When he did that last year, for me, he disqualified himself for greatest coach of all time. He just disqualified himself.
mm-hmm.
Um, but all that to say, like, the 49ers, they're back. And if all goes well and they can be healthy, I think we're looking at the NFC champions. But for me, that was kind of, my takeaway from this weekend, just based on what everyone had been saying about
Mhm.
Brock Purdy is just a one-hit wonder. He's not gonna do it again. He's gonna
Mhm.
come back down. The tape is on him. They figured him out.
Yeah.
And he came out and he said, "No, you haven't figured me out." So
Yeah, I think with Brock Purdy, he's going against the best defense, one of the best defenses in the league in camp.
absolutely, yeah.
So when you go against other teams whose defenses are nowhere near the
It's a cakewalk.
capability of that 49ers defense, I mean Brock Purdy, yeah. And we were saying it. Like the only reason why I didn't have him as in my top 10 quarterback list is just I just need him to do it
More
another
time.
year.
You need to see him. And I think that is fair. That is fair. Saying like, "Hey, he has the capability of being a top 10 quarterback, but I just need to see it longer." That's okay.
Yeah.
But
And
what was tough was like, "Oh, they got the tape on him." It's like, that's for
yeah.
gimmick quarterbacks only. I'm sorry, that's for gimmick quarterbacks, not a quarterbacks
Mhm.
that can actually run a system. So,
Yeah. And so I think Brock Purdy is going to prove this year that he's a top 10 quarterback for sure. Um, it's going to be interesting to see him this upcoming week. As we kind of talk about those games, and it's going to be interesting to see him against Dallas, especially with the way this defense looks in Week 5. But my surprise, or I guess something that I was happy to see was the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love.
that was gonna be
You had
my
a lot.
second one for sure.
You had a lot of question marks about Jordan Love. 3 touchdowns. His completion percentage wasn't that great, but a lot of quarterbacks' completion percentages were not that great this week, and that's okay. He scored when he had to,
Mhm,
and his
mhm.
his I mean his team put up 38 points, and so
Yep.
I'm rooting for Jordan Love. It's not easy coming from or like coming after a Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who had the hold of that town for 18 years, but I think that for him, this was a great game. It was Chicago, it was Chicago.
Sure.
Nothing,
Yeah, sure.
but a great step, a great first step in the right direction for Green Bay. They have a win under the belt. You have Minnesota losing. Uh, so now you're with Detroit. You're one
Yep.
and zero. A great start. Those are the two teams that I was having. I think I'm trying to remember if I'm in my predictions if I had Minnesota in the
I'm
playoffs
not
or not.
sure. I had Detroit.
Um,
I did have Detroit, and I think that's
I
why
had
I didn't
Detroit too.
say I think I think I knew Detroit was gonna take a step. That's why for me, like, them beating Kansas City, yes, it was surprising,
Hmm.
but not shocking, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I knew it would be competitive.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, but like you said, like Jordan Love stepping in, after being on the bench for 3 years, and yeah, like, he was great,
Yeah.
considering. And,
Yeah.
like you said, I know it's the Bears, and, Tyler and I were gonna talk about that later today because he's a Bears fan, and so
Mm.
he has a rant coming about the Chicago Bears, and just about Green Bay in general. But
Right.
yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that because that is a big deal for
Hmm.
Packers fans.
So let's go ahead and talk about what what were some of our disappointments from this past week. Who did not step up? Who did not show up? I think we automatically have to disqualify Joe Burrow from this conversation. I get it, 45%, 82 yards passing, no touchdowns. It was just a bad game.
Yeah,
But I don't expect that to continue for at least for Joe Burrow. Now, the offensive line is definitely of concern
yeah,
when you're going against good football teams, and the fact that you can't protect your quarterback. This is why I'm thinking like, if the Cowboys can make it to the Super Bowl, and I have Cincinnati making it, but the way that the offensive line is playing, they may not make it to the AFC Championship game this year.
you're right.
The way that they're playing, but if that's the Super Bowl matchup, I'm very confident that the Cowboys can win that game because of Michael Parsons in that defense. Like, they're going to get to Joe Burrow. But I'm going to go ahead and disqualify him. I'm going to say the biggest disappointment this weekend was Josh Allen against the Jets
I was gonna
on
say the
Monday
same
night.
thing. So you can kind of speak into that for the both of us, because whatever you're gonna say, I'm probably gonna say too.
And, as a Dak Prescott apologist, like it says down here, if Dak would have thrown 3 interceptions and fumbled the ball to the other team, Dak would have been crucified. But here's where I'm going to be different from everybody else. Everyone's already crucifying Josh Allen because this is starting to get old for Josh Allen. Everyone knows that he's turned the ball over. But the argument always was they still win, even when he turns the ball over. But you have to look at the scenario of this game. Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 plays in, out for the rest of the season. This is your opportunity to crush this team, because like morale is pretty low in the stadium for the team because their season's over, or at least that's the thought process. So the fact that you still lost this game and you were the reason why you lost this game, now you have to ask the question. Now the narrative is going out there now. And I want to get your thoughts in this, Daniel, of even on my list, I have Josh Allen as a top 4 quarterback in the NFL. Depending on how the season plays out, there's a chance that Josh Allen can drop out of the top 5. And if he's not careful, drop out of the top 10, because we can no longer. I'm feeling this way. This may not be how everybody else is or even how you are, but I'm starting to say, like, okay, yes, you went to an AFC championship game, or almost went to an AFC championship game, and you almost beat Patrick Mahomes in overtime if you would have gotten the football first. But that was 2 years ago. What have you done since then? And ever since that he's lost Brian Daboll as his offense coordinator, he has regressed. So how much of this game for you, Daniel, makes you worried about Josh Allen moving forward?
A lot. It does a lot, because there's some moments in the game where I'm just like, dude, that you what are you doing? And it's like the interception that was almost like a punt. And the reality is that he had the first down if he ran it. You know what I mean? It's things like that. Like, he wants to go for the big play and he doesn't have to. And then he did a run, and we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, but his style of play is not conducive to him playing long term. He freaking ran and then dove in between 2 defenders, 2 linebackers. He will not last playing that way.
No.
And he turns the ball over way too much. Way too much.
Yeah.
4 INTs?
No. 3.
3.
There's 3 INTs, but 4 total turnovers because he fumbled the ball.
He fumbled.
He fumbled twice, actually, but he only lost 1.
Yeah, and so I think for me that is, like, for me, I'm with you. He is starting to regress to a point where he's about to drop out of my top 10.
If he continues to go down this road.
If he continues down this path. Now, he can always turn it around. We're not saying that he's completely done, he's cooked, but you're right. Like, yes, the Jets are a very good defense, but if you're that guy,
yeah,
you got to figure it out. You got to
Yeah,
figure it out. And
you
you
do.
got to
You
figure
have
out
to.
a way how to do it without turning the ball over 4 times. You have
Yeah,
to.
I mean, yeah, you have
So
to.
I'm with you. I'm
Um,
with you.
because here's the thing, like Miami, who was my preseason pick to win the division, they looked great offensively against
Yeah.
the Chargers.
Offensively,
Um,
yeah. I thought their
yeah,
defense is that's I mean,
they
it's
made a
Justin
stop when they
Herbert,
needed
but
to.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, they made a stop when they needed to. But Tua's coming. Jets aren't coming. Patriots could be coming. There was some promise there. And I didn't say this about Philadelphia because I think I was trying to make a different kind of point, but I guess I'll talk about Philly now. Like with Philly, I'm now more confident than ever that the Cowboys are going to win the division, uh, and we're going to beat them twice. I'm pretty confident in that. Now, am I going to be surprised if they steal a game? No, especially not in Philadelphia. But their offense did not look good, but it wasn't because of Jalen Hurts. Now I get it. He turned the ball over. He fumbled the ball again, and that's never great. Um, but the play calling for Philadelphia was terrible. That OC that they have is going to win a lot of other teams a lot of games if he continues to call games like that. Um, and you put Dak Prescott and that offense against that defense, he's going to carve them up again, like he did last year, like he's always done. Like just carve them up. But Buffalo, if they're not careful, will finish in third place in the division and not make it to the playoffs if they're not careful. Not saying that that's going to happen. Again, like you said, we're not saying Josh Allen is cooked or anything, but there have been more games than not, especially in the past 2 years, to where you look at Buffalo and they lose, and you're looking at Josh Allen and saying, "Man, your turnovers killed us." Like in games where you're supposed to step on the gas and take off, he has hit the brakes and has allowed other teams to come back and win games. So he just needs to be better. And
Yeah,
if he's
for sure.
not, there's already this narrative now going about him and turnovers and losing games now. Because like you said about Dak last year, and I guess now we can transition to talking about quarterbacks this past week who have struggled, and like Lamar struggled, Jalen struggled, Joe Burrow struggled. I mean, Mahomes struggled, but to his receivers, and Dak struggled a little bit in the rain, as a lot of quarterbacks did this weekend. Sam Howell struggled. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks who struggled this week. Um, what are your thoughts on last week and the quarterback play, and how do you see that moving forward?
I think we were as fans, we're used to I think what we're wanting to do is we're wanting our quarterbacks to pick up where they left off last year. And the reality of that is like, hey, most of these guys don't play in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that for me, I feel like that's the bulk of what we're noticing is them not
Mm-hmm.
playing.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that like I would love to give Joe Burrow a break. I would. I would. I get you know what? No, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to penalize him for the stupidity of others. Um, because people made a big deal about Patrick Mahomes not playing well
Mm-hmm.
or not quote unquote not playing well. Even though he played well enough to win the game. And I think we can safely say, hey, that for me, at least for me right now, the debate is over of who's the best quarterback in the NFL. I know for you that probably was never a
It was
debate.
never a debate.
But for me now it's completely over. Like I get your offensive line is bad, but that's you chose to do like you chose that. And I'm saying you chose that because you decided to take all the money. You decided to take all the money. And so I don't know what he thinks he's going to get as an offensive line moving forward.
Mm.
And
That's an interesting point.
and it's for this reason. Patrick Mahomes had the opportunity to do the same thing Joe Burrow just did. Take all the
Mhm,
money. But he decided to take a pay cut. Decided to take less. And what happened? They got one of the best offense lines in football last year. Helped
mhm,
them win the Super Bowl. What happened was the reason they lost against Tampa Bay in the second Super Bowl is because of the offensive line.
mhm,
Now, because of Patrick Mahomes taking a pay cut, the ability of the Kansas City Chiefs to go and acquire an offensive line
mhm.
helped them out. Helped them out. And so I think for Joe Burrow, the debate is over. I'm not going to write him off. But after you claim $270 million, you got to play better than that because Deshaun played better. He played better than
And
that.
Sean still played still played bad, either way,
Yeah,
but
but he put points on the board at least. And so I
yeah,
think so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think them not playing the preseason has a lot to do with how each of them played.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, and I think that's what we have to if this continues on as a trend throughout the season, then that's a
Mhm,
conversation we can have. But I think for now, my opinion is they don't get to play that often. We're expecting them to
mhm.
take off where they picked up off last year. And that's kind of wishful thinking for all of us, especially in bad weather, which a majority of them played.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into like kind of our main pick'em session, as we kind of get towards the end of the show, just one question. Obviously, we talked about I talked about it earlier at the start, but Aaron Rodgers tearing his ACL, now out for the season. Conversations have started happening about, what's the future for Aaron Rodgers? Is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? How is he going to look when he comes back? What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, and where? How do you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to respond from this injury?
It's one of those things where like you wish you can get into the mind of a person and
Mm,
to see what they're thinking. Now it's being reported that Aaron's still going to be around the team this year. He's still going to be around Zach Wilson helping him. Um, and so that's for if you're a Jets fan, like you're overjoyed about that because like having Aaron Rodgers essentially be kind of like your quarterback whisperer for the rest of the year with a guy who has immense talent. He's
hmm
talented. And you saw some flashes from Zach Wilson on Monday night.
hmm
You saw what he could be. Now he got bailed out by Garrett Wilson on that touchdown because that was begging to be intercepted.
hmm
Um, but I think he did really well considering he got thrown into a game where he didn't think he was going to play for maybe the next 2 years. And
Right,
so
right.
I think, but for Aaron, and if he decides to come back next year, which I think he will, because I think no one wants to end their career that way.
hmm
Um, I think it'll be good for them. It can create a lot of pressure though going into next year,
hmm
depending on how this defense plays and how this offense plays under Zach Wilson. Because if they can win about 8 games and stuff next, you know what they're going to say. The narrative is going to be, "Oh, Aaron's that missing piece. We're going to go win the Super Bowl the next year." And
hmm
that's a lot of pressure. And can Aaron live up to that pressure? We'll have to see. But for me, I think this injury is going to allow him to one build relationships with the team that he's already building and going to get more comfortable. And for him, he's probably going to notice a lot of things not playing, because I think this is his first time in his career that he's going to miss a whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's for him, that might motivate him a little bit more. And so I'm excited to see what he's going to do next year, because I do believe he's coming back. And I do believe that if the Jets have any semblance of some success,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have Super Bowl in their sights next year for sure.
Yeah. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. I think that he's going to want to prove that he can still do it. Like, he's going to hear people saying, "Oh, he's done. His career's over. He should just retire. He's going to retire." He's going to come back and he's going to be like, "No, I'm going to prove that I'm the best quarterback still in the NFL, and you can't do anything about it," because that's just the attitude that he has. The fact that he's still going to be around the team and help Zach Wilson throughout the season, I hope that the Jets don't go and get a quarterback. Like, I hope that they don't try and, I mean, the only person who I would be okay with the Jets going and trying to get is Kyler
Colin
Murray.
Kaepernick?
No. Is Kyler Murray, because obviously you can make the case that Arizona is trying to tank for Caleb Williams. And so trade Kyler but then you're going to have Kyler Murray on your football team, and you're also going to have Aaron Rodgers, and you're also going to have Zach Wilson, unless you trade Zach Wilson to Arizona. So actually, I take that back. So no, I hope that the Jets don't come and draft anybody. Or not draft, but trade for anybody or sign anybody like Cam Newton. Like, no, Cam Newton cannot play in the NFL anymore. He just can't. His career's over. I can definitively say that. And Joy Taylor and Speak, the people on that show, they were talking about, yeah, Cam Newton to me is the best option. No, he's not. He's not the best option. What has he done since Carolina in 2015? Or I guess 2017 maybe.
I think he had his opportunity when he went back to Carolina to just even establish that, hey, I can still do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, like I'll even go back to say, even in New England, he played before he got COVID.
Before he got
really
COVID,
well.
he played well. He played well. Yeah,
but
you're right.
he got time after that to do that, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to look at that and kind of be like, and you can probably blame it on Matt Rule. Like, hey, this is why he was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's better options than him out there.
There could be. But again, I think you drafted Zach Wilson, the second overall pick. He has progressed throughout the preseason, and he had flashes on Monday night. So when you have someone like Aaron Rodgers in the building, who's still going to be around the team, who's going to be mentoring him, now he gets to mentor him as, because he's injured. Zach's the starter. He's coming off the field and be like, "Hey, you missed that read, man. Like, hey, you did this. Hey, if the defense is giving this is where the ball needs to go." Like, you have you have a Hall of Fame quarterback on the sideline helping Zach Wilson develop to be the player that you guys believed that he was going to be. So roll with Zach Wilson, have Aaron Rodgers come back next year. Because he's going to want to make a statement. This is not how he wants his career to end. So he's going to come back, and I believe, you see players coming back from torn ACLs. The way that the medical world works now, players can come back and still play well. Now it's no longer the question of he's not this, and that, or whatever. Especially with Aaron, I think he's going to come back and he's going to be better than ever. And he's going to want to prove that he's not done. So I think he is definitely going to come back. Now we're moving into Pick'em this week. This is where we're going to pick every single game. I feel like last week, I don't have the exact numbers of how we did last week. I'm just gonna try and go back
I
real
I
quick.
don't I don't have I don't have them either, but I can probably later today I can go through them and
Yeah, later today, and then next week we'll have like our combined scores total from the last 2 weeks and go from there. So we are going to start with Thursday night's game, tomorrow night's game. It's going to be Minnesota traveling to Philadelphia. Um, I'm going to go with the Eagles. Again, I just don't believe in Minnesota.
yeah, I'm
I
gonna
don't
do the
believe in
same
their
thing.
defense.
Yep, that's exactly why. Yeah, I think Minnesota's defense is what's gonna get them in trouble. I
Hmm.
think Minnesota's offense is great,
Hmm.
but their defense is what's gonna get them in trouble. I do think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I do believe that, but I think Philly's defense, as overrated as you may think that they are, they can still get after the quarterback.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, for sure.
that's that's gonna be key for them, and I think they're gonna pull it out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that if Minnesota does win this game, it'll be a nice revenge game for them if they win it. But I just don't. I just don't see Jalen Hurts looking like that again this week. I think he's going to overcome his offense coordinator, and but we'll see. We'll see. So we both have the Eagles coming out of that game. Next, we have the Packers versus Atlanta, who they won their game last week. I think it was like 24-10
Mhm.
against Carolina. But I'm going to go with Jordan Love here and the Packers. I think they showed a lot of good signs. I think that they're
Yeah.
going to start the season off hot. They're going to go 2-0.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the Falcons benefited from, you know, a Carolina team that doesn't have weapons. I think they
Hmm.
benefited from that, and so that's not gonna be the case against Green Bay. So I believe Green Bay is gonna come out and they're gonna kinda pick up where they left off last week, with a still growing Atlanta team who I think they have
Hmm.
promise. I think they're focused on the running game. They're not asking Desmond Ritter to do too much, and so that's gonna be good for them. But I think we're still away from them being a formidable team that's going to cause problems in the NFC.
Right. Yeah, I would say that the Packers now they have a shot of making the playoffs.
Oh
That
yeah,
might be a little
I
bit
think so
that
too.
might be a little bit too soon for me to say,
But
but I just
we'll
really
see. But
think that they have a
I'm
shot
with you.
at making it.
I'm
Yeah.
with you in that line of thinking.
Okay, so now we have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Buffalo and playing in that game. Daniel, who do you have winning?
I think it's the same thing I told Justin Herbert last week. I'm going to tell the same thing to Josh Allen. You have to win this game. If
Mm.
you do not win this game, now we have a narrative about you.
Mm-hmm.
And on this show at least, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to protect. We're not going to coddle because it would be done with any other quarterback, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do it to you. If you do not win
Mm-hmm.
this game against a Las Vegas team, they played well. They played pretty well last week.
Right. Yeah.
But you're the freaking Buffalo Bills. You're one of the favorites to go to the AFC Championship game every year. You have to win this game. And Josh Allen, you have to actually play your butt off in this game. You have to have a great game. You can't struggle again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pick Buffalo because they have to.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Buffalo, and I think it's because I think that this Las Vegas Raiders defense is nowhere near as good as New York's. And so Josh Allen is going to take advantage of a terrible team. I think he'll still turn the ball over, but it's not going to cost him the game this time because I just need Josh Jacobs to do better because he's on my fantasy and he did not play well this past week. I need him to do a better job. And I think that if he's able to run the ball and run it effectively, I think the Raiders have a chance to win this game. But I just don't trust the Raiders defense. And so I think
Mhm.
Josh Allen is going to take advantage of that and they're going to win and they're going to even out their record. Now you have the next game. This is going to be a fantastic game. Baltimore at Cincinnati. Yeah, two quarterbacks who struggled, but Lamar still looked better than Joe Burrow. That their defense, Ravens defense was pretty good. I'm going with Baltimore. I think Baltimore is going to win this game. I think Lamar looks better. I think that he has less things to overcome. And Joe Burrow, he has a lot that he has to overcome against a good football team.
Yeah.
I think that if he was playing a worse football team, I think that he would be able to overcome it at this point of the season. Again, I'm not saying that they're tanking now and they're going to be bad now. I just think that they're going to have a slow start like they did last year.
Yeah, I agree too. I think this is just their MO and what they're going to be as a team until they fix their offensive line issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Baltimore. For me, what I wish would have happened was that, when Joe Burrow initially got injured, he's like, hey, he's going to take a couple weeks off. I think he still needs that. And so
Mm.
I hope this doesn't affect the rest of their season.
Right.
But in how I see it right now, it looks like it's going to, and I'm picking Baltimore to win this game.
Yeah. It's all right. That's good. So let's go to Seattle at Detroit. Seattle struggled. The Rams came out of nowhere, in my opinion. They were also another surprising team, putting up 30 points, winning 13 against Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So Seattle has to make a statement here. Kenneth Walker, I think you predicted that correctly. I think when we were talking about Kenneth Walker, you were talking about his health, and he went down in this game, which is unfortunate. But I have Detroit winning this game. I think the way that they played against Kansas City, granted without Travis Kelce, granted with receivers dropping passes, I like the way that they looked. Still, I think defensively they'll be a lot better, and I think Seattle, just especially on their offensive line, have a lot of questions. I don't know what Kenneth Walker's status is for this game, which I'll look up while you're talking, and maybe that we'll change our picks and we'll change our opinions on that. But Daniel, who do you have winning this game?
I got the same. I got the Lions winning. I just like the way they look, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Seattle finds a way to turn it around, because I do think they're at the receiver position. They're way more talented than Kansas City. I do believe that. And like you said, like they almost lost because of the lack of receiving core that Patrick Mahomes had. And I do believe like getting the ball to their rookie Gibbs is going to be their best bet. I love Jamal Williams, but I do think that Gibbs, if they can get him the ball in space, that's going to be better for them. Part of me wants to hold that hope. I'm going to pick Seattle, actually. I'm going to pick Seattle.
Okay, so as you're talking, I apologize. I was wrong. He was dealing with a groin injury in the preseason, but he's not dealing with it anymore. They just need to give him the ball more because he had 12 carries for 64 yards. So maybe if they gave him the ball more, they would do better. But anyway, you're going with Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Seattle just because I believe that they have a better receiving core. And for me, I feel like that was the difference against Kansas City. I think Kansas City had Travis Kelce or a semblance of a number one receiver, they lose that game as well as they played. That was the main reason why they won. And so I'm gonna pick Seattle to get back on the right track and get a victory.
Okay. So we disagree on this one. I think this is the first one we'll disagree on. Next game is Indianapolis versus Houston. I'm going to go with the Colts. Anthony Richardson looked good his first week against Jacksonville.
Looked good.
It's a tough team to play, but he looked pretty good. I think that he has a better team than Houston does, even though I have high hopes for Houston. I think this is a no-brainer. I think Anthony Richardson, he's going to show up and he's going to play well again.
Yeah, a good positive thing that came out of their first week was that, hey, they were pretty good. And it's no shame to lose to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, but what did come out of that was like a feeling of we have a quarterback now. We have a guy that we can believe in, that we can build around.
Mhm.
And so for Indy, you got really high hopes, and I think this week you're gonna actually see, hey, we got the right guy, and we're gonna beat the brakes off of Houston.
Yeah. Okay, next week is we got Kansas City at Jacksonville. This one's a tough one.
My heart hurts for this one. Mm,
I'm gonna stick with Patrick Mahomes. I have
okay,
to stick with Patrick Mahomes. Uh,
okay.
I believe that the drops won't happen this upcoming week. I think they're gonna fix some mistakes. I believe in Andy Reid and what he can do. So I'm not tripping. I'm not concerned. Now, if Travis Kelsey doesn't play, I might change my mind. He's questionable. He's going through the process right now. He's trying to get through practice, and he's been going through practice, and there hasn't been any knee swelling or anything like that after practice. So we feel pretty good and feel pretty confident about it. So if he plays, I think that Kansas City will win. But I expect Trevor Lawrence to have a great game. I think Chris Jones also coming back to the
That's gonna
team
be
is
huge,
big for them. The fact that
huge.
he signed an extension, it was. I think that it
It
was a.
was 1 year, 20 up to $25 million. Um, and so he's gonna
But
be back.
he's going to be back, and I thought that the defense played well without him anyway.
Mhm.
So with him coming back to the fold, I think Kansas City will be in a good position once they get Kelsey back.
This one's tough for me
And I
because
know it is. I know it is.
I love Patrick Mahomes, but I love Trevor Lawrence. And I think it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard
Mhm.
for Patrick Mahomes and company to pull this out because I'm for me, what's the sticking point is the offense.
Mm.
That's the sticking point for me. So I'm gonna go with Jacksonville. I'm gonna go with Jacksonville for this game. I think just Trevor Lawrence has way more weapons, way more firepower. Um, I you just gotta hope that their defense is gonna do enough to hold Patrick Mahomes. But I'm gonna take Jacksonville.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, sticking with your man. I love it. I love it though.
Mhm,
I love the commitment. Uh,
mhm.
Chicago traveling to Tampa Bay. I picked Tampa Bay to beat Minnesota, and I was right. Baker came in through the clutch with his legs. I just love his heart. I think
They
he's
they
in a good
they love
position.
they love here's the thing.
They love playing for him. Yeah.
Exactly. And like when whoever is playing with Baker Mayfield, what you know you're always gonna get is 100% effort.
Hmm.
And he's gonna always give you his best.
Hmm.
And so that is what they're gonna cling to, what they're gonna hold on to. And so for me, I'm excited to see Baker Mayfield continue to thrive with this team.
Yeah, I am too. So I'm picking Tampa Bay. I think they're going to win this game. Chicago's they're just going to have just a rough start. It's okay. It'll be fine. They'll get over it. Next game, Los Angeles Chargers versus the Tennessee Titans. Dan, you talked about it, so I'm going to let you kind of discuss this. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, to where I'm picking the Chargers to win because I know they have to win this game, and they should win this game. They have the better quarterback, they have the better offense. Um, so I mean, you have Kellen Moore. You should be winning these games. He's such a great offense coordinator, and I don't mean that like sarcastically.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why you went and you got Kellen Moore, because you thought that he was going to get Justin Herbert over the hump,
Mhm.
and he is a good offense coordinator. but he has to be a great offensive coordinator. And if you believe that he's going to be that, he needs to win this game. And the Chargers need to win this game.
No, I agree with you. I think the Chargers, they have to win this game. I think they need to win this game. Um, hey, like their offense wasn't really the reason that they lost, unless I'm misremembering the game. But they gave up what 36 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like that matters, and so your defense has to play really well. But I'm going to stick with the Chargers because I believe they still have a better offense,
Mm-hmm.
and we just gotta hope that Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, you gotta hope that they show up and actually
Yeah.
play like they're capable of playing. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I'm gonna still take them. I still think they're the better team, even though I believe Tennessee is better coached.
Yeah, it's well said. All right, now you got two of the worst teams in the NFL. You got the New York Football Giants versus the Arizona Cardinals. Uh, I think the Giants bounce back from this. I think that they win this game. I think that Monday night for the Giants, we only talked about what the Cowboys did. I thought for the Giants that was the worst performance I've ever seen from a football team from top to bottom in week 1. Special teams was terrible. Defense was terrible. Offense was atrocious. I don't put that game on Daniel Jones because, I mean, that defense was in the backfield in like 0.3 seconds. I mean, he had no time to get the ball out there. And then one of the interceptions, not even his fault. It was just a great play by Trayvon Diggs to knock that ball loose before it was caught. But this is a Brian Daboll football team who was coach of the year last year. Now, whether he came to play, whether they came to play for him, whether he had them ready to go last week, you could put it on him. But I think they're going to be ready to play this week because there's that narrative again for New York that they're not for real, that last year was an anomaly, that Daniel Jones isn't that guy. And Daniel Jones started the game off playing pretty well. They just got bust in the mouth and forgot how to play football. And so I think that the Giants are going to bounce back from this game and they're going to win.
I agree too. I think, like you said, weather has a lot to do with it. Arizona is kind of a mess right now, anyway. And so
Mm-hmm.
they have no quarterback. They have really no team. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
New York, they're going to pull it out. They're going to be able to run the ball with Saquon again, and really get him the ball because they kind of abandoned. Well, they didn't really abandon. They just couldn't get anywhere against Dallas. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
think Arizona has that kind of defense to contain that. And so I think I'm with you. They're going to bounce back this week for sure.
So next game, it's San Francisco. They're beating Los Angeles Rams. I liked what the Rams did this past
It's
week,
a good start. It's
but
a good start. But
this defense, man, it's going to be crazy. So I expect San Francisco to win this game. I feel like this is pretty easy to say.
yeah,
Next week we have the Jets at Dallas. Cowboys need to win this game. You're playing against Zach Wilson. Dak, this is the game you show up for. You're at home. The defense showed up last week. They're going to show up again this week. So you got to continue to show your offense has to continue to produce because I'm not going to say that they're not producing. They put up 27 points last week. Average another 27 points. And I even saw somebody say, he's like, Dak, just get 17 and you'll win this game. But I'm saying get 27. Be productive. Be efficient. Do what you did last week and not force the ball anywhere. Take what the defense gives you. Score points. That's it. Don't worry about the yards. Don't worry about your stats. Just get the job done. So the Cowboys, I think they're going to win this game, and they're going to win it pretty handily.
I agree. And I think this is going to be shocking to some people. But I'm not going to ask Dak to score. Well, of course, I want him to score. But what I'm going to value him more is to just be efficient and take
Protect
care
the
of the
football.
football.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want. because I believe, like, yeah, with New York, I mean, New York, they were supposed to have they were supposed to have an okay defense, like pretty good.
Mhm.
But this has been like a team that has been talking about wanting to be historic.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, they did that last week. They forced 4 turnovers. That's a great start.
Mm.
And so I think the best that we can ask of Dak is take care of the football
Mm.
and be efficient.
Mm.
That's all I want, Dak. I don't care if you score 17 or 20 points. At the end of the game, what I want to say is, man, Dak did what he was supposed to do, did not
Mhm.
turn it over, and look what he did against a very, very good defense.
Mm.
Because who knows if anyone's going to be able to score more than 20 points against this defense this year.
Right. Right.
And so that's what I want from Dak. But I'm with you. I expect the Cowboys to win. I expect the defense to demolish Zach Wilson and the Jets. And all
Mm.
Dak and the offense has to do is run the football and not turn the ball over. That's all we need them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree. Okay, as we kind of wind down, we got a couple of games. Washington versus Denver. Um, Washington should win this game. Denver is who Denver is. It's kind of hard to track that right now. They only scored 16 points. Just not very impressive, I would say. I think defensively they are very impressive, which might be a concern, but I just believe in Washington's offense more than I believe in Denver's offense, and that's the key for this game.
I agree. I do think, and I don't. It's hard to just watch the highlights and not watch the whole entire game. But there are some
Mm-hmm.
moments where Russell Wilson looked really good. There's some
Mm-hmm.
moments where he looked good, but I think him doing that for the long period of the game, maybe that's going to take some time too. Um, I'm actually going to take Denver. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Denver.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what's up with me today. I feel like I'm taking different teams, but maybe I'm just being a prisoner of last week and maybe just the highlights that I saw. But I do think that
Mm.
Russell Wilson is going to outplay Sam Howell, and I think that's going to be the difference in the ball game.
Mm. Yeah. I think this one's pretty easy. Miami, they're going to beat New England.
Yeah, they
Tua
just
showed out. Tyreek showed out. That
yeah.
offense was fantastic.
I just don't know what answer they're going to have. But here's what I will say. Um, They played really well against Jalen Hurts. The defense played
They
pretty
did.
well against the
They did.
offense, and so, you
Mac
know,
Jones looked good.
as much as I don't think that Bill Belichick's not the GOAT coach, I still think he's a great defensive mind,
Hmm.
and I think he's gonna throw some things at Miami, but I still expect Miami to pull out the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, then we have two Monday night games. We have New Orleans against Carolina. I think Derek Carr played pretty well. He showed up at the end of the game last week to pull out the victory. Um, Bryce Young's young, so I'm going to go with New Orleans because I have him winning the division. So Derek Carr is going to win this game. And then you have Cleveland at Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with Cleveland. That defense looks insane. It looks elite. You run the ball with Nick Chubb. Steelers are not as good as we thought they were. But Daniel, who do you think wins these games as we close out the show?
I'm with you with New Orleans. I feel like they're still the better team. I think Carolina, they still have a lot to grow, and I think they're missing key components to help Bryce Young succeed.
Mm,
Um, and then I also believe I'm with you. I think the defense of Cleveland is just scary. Miles
mhm.
Garrett was literally just playing basketball and rushing Joe Burrow last week. I don't know if you saw the clip, but he was like pretending he was
Mm,
bouncing a basketball and then did a crossover around the center to get to Joe
yeah,
Burrow. So I
yeah,
think just that, and just again, based on, like you said, the Steelers aren't who we thought that they were going to be this season. And so I think for me it's an easy dub for Cleveland, and man, Cleveland's off to a great start um, because of their defense. And so I think
right.
I think that's how Monday night's gonna go.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. But that's going to do it for us here on Double Take, an NFL podcast. Come back next week as we review the biggest games from the weekend. We hope you have a great weekend watching football. We're going to be back to talk all about it, and you'll get to see how we did and pick them this weekend. So until next time, for Daniel, this is David.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys later. God bless.
See ya.